Right, good evening everyone. It has turned 6 o'clock, so we will make a start. I apologise it's so cold in the chamber. Hopefully that'll make for a brisker meeting. Right, so agenda item number 1 is the evacuation procedure. I believe everyone knows the evacuation procedure by now, so I'm not going to repeat it. Apologies. I had apologies apparently from Councillor Jill Shepherd, but you're here anyway, so Councillor Watkins, so... that leads us on to agenda item number 3, which is the minutes to confirm the meeting of the subcommittee held on the 5th of December 2022. Is everyone happy I sign those as a true and accurate record? That leads me on to agenda item number 4, which is declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations beyond those printed on the agenda? No. Agenda item number 5, public consultation. There are no members of the public or any other councillor here. That leads us on to agenda item number 6, which is civic recognition, street naming and numbering report, Clinic Drive. Matt, do you want to present the report as the officer? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report follows on from 2 requests, Appendix A and Appendix B of the report, that set out a request to change what is currently Clinic Drive. It is currently the named aspect of Clinic Drive, not to confuse matters, and there's also an unnamed aspect of Clinic Drive, which is associated to Appendix B. So in terms of the named drive and of a named aspect of Clinic Drive, there's a request to change that to recognise Lewis Carter, and then in terms of Appendix B, there's a request to change the unnamed part of Clinic Drive to Angels Way. So in terms of the report itself, there's a request in there to either reject the requests received or to submit, or for the subcommittee, shall I say, to grant approval for officers to investigate both of those requests in line with the street naming and numbering policy that Cabinet agreed and approved back in March 2022. And at the point of writing this report, officers haven't gone through in full detail yet a full review as to whether both requests are compliant or not. But today we would be seeking, as part of the subcommittee, recommendations for approval to look into those, and then for a follow-up report back to Cabinet to either accept or reject those at that point. I would like to draw members' attention to key aspects under item 4 of the report, which is under considerations, that there are obviously potentially financial implications of this, in the sense that not only for the Borough Council to implement the name change, but also in the event that it is challenged, there's obviously a potential risk there for the Magistrates' Court should it go down that route. Albeit unlikely, there is still a risk there. And just to also make members aware that should it be approved and goes through the review process and the Cabinet agree, there must be at least 1 month's notice before any such change can make place or can take place along that aspect of the highway as well. Obviously, notwithstanding that, there are potentially some additional implications for whether residents or businesses that operate along that particular part of the highway. But at this stage, we're just asking for either approval to investigate them further and report back to Cabinet, or to reject both reports. But happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So in order for us to debate, I want to be a bit more specific with the recommendations, given our previous methodology, as we've done with Simon Valentine, that we were very specific that it had his rank and his full name in the road name, which I think is very important to ensure that his memory and the purpose behind it lives on. So I would suggest that Part A, the named part of Clinic Drive, is named Fusilier Louis Carter Drive, which follows a similar format to Sergeant Simon Valentine Way, and that the unnamed part, which Councillor Golby informs me is just listed as Coton Road, that is named Angels Way, which will actually give it some more meaning after the school and the church nearby. So I'm happy to move that that be substituted for 2.2, and that 2.3 stand, that subject to compliance with the policy be recommended to Cabinet for approval. Councillor Golby, you second that. Does any member wish to speak? No? Oh, Councillor Golby, sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify a couple of points. I do think that we should take this further. I think, given that we've had the request come external from the council, it's only fair that we actually do look further into this. On the two sections of road, Fuseley Carter, the part of the road that would be renamed would actually be the part of Clinic Drive where we process for the Remembrance Sunday, which is in line also with what we've done over in Bedworth, where we process on Armistice on Sergeant Valentine Way. So those two things are equal to each other, and I think that is something that we should bear in mind when we think of these things. And also the Angels Way element, so to clarify, the address of the church and the presbytery and the school that sits behind is Coton Road. However, it's not on Coton Road, so we're not looking to rename Coton Road proper. It's just the offshoot where the school and the presbytery are, and that's actually come via Father Hall, who was the presiding priest at the Our Lady of the Angels Church, which is my church, which is how I know how it all fits together. And I think actually that's a fitting tribute there as well. And I think if anybody objects to the fact that actually Louis Carter's mum and Father Simon themselves have asked for this, and this is not coming from any sort of political angle, if there are any objections, I think there need to be really strong ones to go back to be able to say no to these changes. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, just to add some context to this, when we had the road renaming ceremony for Sergeant Simon Valentine, I was approached by some members of the Fusiliers community asking me about Louis Carter, and I gave them the answer, as I did with regard to Simon Valentine, that I would only consider proceeding if it had the consent of the family and the next of kin, because I don't want to reopen old wounds, so to speak, if it wasn't appropriate. And that's how come the letter has found its way to the council, because obviously Mrs. Carter has given her permission for us to do that. So we have the recommendations as amended before us. A show of hands in favour, please. Yep, that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That moves us on to the renaming of Sherborne Avenue Park. Matt, do you want to present that?
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of this report, similar to the report we've just gone through, but difference in the fact that we are looking or following a request to change the name of Sherborne Avenue Park. That is in light of the sad passing of Lewis Stevens MBE. As I'm sure members will be aware, he was a Member of Parliament and was a former councillor and deputy leader of what was the old Nuneaton Borough Council. He also lived close to the park, and members also may be aware that this park has been identified as part of the UK SBF funding round for works to take place next financial year, and obviously the request has come forward to rename that park. I must set out to members to make them aware that as part of this process, if approved at 2.2, that we would have to do a form of consultation with residents within the borough. But that is no issue in terms of how we undertake that. We've got a proven track record of undertaking that consultation. And again, very similar to the previous report in that obviously there will be financial implications related to this, and obviously changing names of parks and updating documentation and databases, etc. But obviously, as per the report, there's a provision in there under the Local Government Act to undertake that change, and that at this stage, we're just asking the committee to grant approval for that consultation to take place, and then we report back thereafter. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Matt. I'm happy to move the recommendations, and can I also just say to Councillor Watkins that I'm aware that Bill Olner passed away recently, and regardless of our differences, I do believe that he gave a lot to the borough. We might have political differences, but if Councillor Watkins can think of any other suitable tribute to Bill Olner, I'd be happy for that to come to a future meeting too, if you can think of anything nearby where he lived or something appropriate. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was actually just thinking about Bill Olner. He has done a long service for Nuneaton. So, yeah, thank you. I'll leave that with me and I'll come back to you. But as in this, I've got no problem with it going forward for consultation.
Thank you. I'm just going to say you would probably know more about his background and all that than I would. So if you want to liaise with Matt, and we'll bring a future report on that if possible. Councillor Croft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say I'm happy to second the report. It was a wonderful career of service that Lou gave to the town and to the borough, and it's particularly significant for me because not only was he one of my residents who I think he was the first person to sign my nomination papers, but he was very encouraging and mentoring to me when I was starting out in politics. We were both in the Conservative Party, but didn't always see eye to eye on the issues, but he was very encouraging to me as somebody who was quite young and starting out, so I'm very happy, and I think it's a very appropriate way to mark his service to the people of this borough.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Croft. Any other member wish to speak? No, in which case we'll move... Oh, sorry, Councillor Walsh.
Can I just raise a point? It's a clarification from my own point of view. Considerations on 5.1. If you'd like to enlighten me on what the previous scenarios were in terms of challenging positions following a previous scenario. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that related to the Miners Welfare Park where we had benches that were renamed, and as part of that process there was an aspect of there being some potential confusion and duplication of civic awards, so to speak, on a local level back when it was undertaken, but that was as a result of information provided to me from the Parks Department, and that caused some confusion and some duplication of work they needed to resolve around that. Clearly at this stage, as part of that consultation, we can then take internally further review in terms of what element or at what extent there could be in terms of the key change of the naming of that park, and then we can report back on any key issues or items for yourself to be aware of. Thank you.
Okay. Any other speaker? No, in which case we'll move to the recommendations as printed. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. And that moves us on to agenda item number 8, which is about the appointment of honorary aldermen and women and honorary freemen and free women. Matt, do you want to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of this report, I'm sure members will be aware of when this came over 12 months ago. Just want to keep this generally brief so we can keep this item available for you to go through any nominations you may have, but fundamentally the recommendations are to note the report and then for any potential nominations to come through from this committee, whether today or separately. The report does set out the background as to in terms of the Local Government Act and the appointment process for both alderman, alderwoman and freeman, free woman. And then what generally would happen based upon your nominations is that we'd then have to call an extraordinary full council meeting to go through the full appointment process. So, Chair, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them, but otherwise, hand over to yourselves.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So I do have some nominations for both positions of honorary aldermen or women and honorary freemen and women. If I go through the honorary aldermen and women first, the nominations that I would like to put forward are Sonia Wilson, who was a former Conservative councillor for Arbury, and served both as mayoress and as chair of the licensing committee, and she's still active in with the street pasta movement and goes down and supports the markets. And the second nomination is former Labour councillor Jeff Ashford, a member of long standing. I believe he last represented the Kingswood ward just before you, wasn't it, Councillor Watkins? He served as a mayor, a cabinet member, and indeed deputy leader of the council and deputy leader of the opposition. Former councillor Sheila Hancock, again a former cabinet member and mayoress twice over, and also heavily involved in education within the borough. And then also former Labour councillor Bob Hicks, again another former mayor but also former chairman of Warwickshire County Council, and I believe he represented the Abbey ward at various points. I can say that all of them have been spoken to and have actually agreed to be nominated. And then in terms of honorary freemen and women, we have been looking for a number of notable Nuneaton, Bedworth and Borkington members of the public who would possibly be good ambassadors for the borough. And the nominations I would like to put forward are Frank Parker. He is a businessman of long standing within the borough, and he also supports a number of local charities and particularly local youth sports teams, and supports the local businesses on Abbey Green. Murray Richards, who will be no stranger to those of us on Remembrance Sunday and other civic events. He keeps us all in order and in check as the parade marshal of long standing, following on from the sad passing of Jessie Owen a number of years ago. Julie Earnshaw, who is a nationally renowned dancer and dance instructor, and from what I've been informed about, she also does charity work, and also she was a judge on the forerunner of Strictly Come Dancing for 8 years, according to the information I've been given. Martin Bradley from Borkington has done a lot of charity work within the community in Borkington, and in particular supporting civic events such as the Christmas light switch on, ensuring that the village was decorated for Borkington and all other activities. And he was a key member of the COVID response within the Borkington village, ensuring particularly those who were elderly and vulnerable were able to get the support that they needed. Carol Valentine from Bedworth, again, I don't think she needs any introduction to us, but it's important to note that she has been particularly active, not just locally, where she has done sterling work with the Poppy Appeal in Bedworth for over 20 years, but she has been an active member of the Armistice Parade group in Bedworth for 5 years, and she is heavily involved with the military, supporting veterans and bereaved families, and she sat as a trustee for the Lee Rigby Foundation, who we all will remember was brutally murdered a number of years ago now. And she campaigns around the Military Covenant and is a member of the Fusiliers Association supporting veterans. Paul Goff, who is our current town crier. He has been the town crier for over 36 years. He has been a national award winner and represented the country on an international stage as well. And I think anyone who has given 36 years service to the civic life of the borough deserves recognition for that. And finally, this may seem unusual, but Hollywood filmmaker Gareth Edwards. He is from Nuneaton. He was born and raised in Nuneaton. He was educated at Higham Lane School and went off to North Warwickshire and Hinckley College. He is most recently known for, if I just get my notes, for Star Wars Rogue One, which was a prequel to Star Wars Episode 4. He also was the director of Godzilla, and recently released The Creator, a new film, and he has been responsible as a director, writer and producer on multi-million pound Hollywood blockbusters. And the fact that he comes from Nuneaton, I think, shows that if you aim big, you can achieve, even if you come from Nuneaton and Bedworth. So those are the nominations that I have received, or have been indicated to me from various different people that I would like to put before the committee. Councillor Croft, you indicate... Oh, sorry. You were poised to... Oh, sorry. Does that receive a seconder, those nominations? Councillor Golby. Anyone wish to speak? Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There is another one, but I'll have to get back to you on that. Is that okay?
Yeah, we've got to have another civic honours subcommittee anyway to consider some other things, so if you let officers know, then...
Do you want me to let you let me? Okay then. Yeah, thank you.
Just a bit of, it seems a bit of a contradiction in the report, in so much as it talks about obviously appointment of aldermen, honorary aldermen, ex-councillors, etc., which is fine. And then it goes on to say that you can't be an alderman or you can't speak or attend as an alderman if you're a current member of the council. So, am I a bit confused here? Because if you're an alderman, sorry, yes. Yes, appreciate that, but it seems a bit confusing in the way it says things in here somehow along the line. Where are we? So 3 point. Yes. See what I'm saying?
So if you get re-elected, it basically means you can't be called an alderman.
Yeah. Is that what it means? Okay. It's just this, it didn't read right considering what it says in 3.1. But if that's the fact that if an alderman could be re-elected as a councillor, then they would have to stand down as an alderman.
Yeah, if someone who is appointed an alderman subsequently is re-elected to the council which gives them that honour, they lose the alderman title and revert to just plain councillor. Any other comments? No? In which case, the names, is everyone happy with the names, or do they need me to repeat them, or happy to just take them as I said? Yeah. Trying to find my papers now. Yeah. So all those in favour of those being submitted to Cabinet with a view to being recommended to an extraordinary full council, please show. Thank you very much. It's carried. That leads us on to the Borough Award of Merit Progress Report. Matt, you taking that one? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll take the report as read, but just draw your attention to the fact that we've got a scheme there that invites members of the public to participate, indicate what category of award their nominee could be considered for, and then, of course, the suggestions that come from the members of the public are submitted for councillors to consider and make the decision from there. So I'll also mention there's an amended report, just make sure you've got the right one in front of you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so the recommendations are to endorse the proposals and approach as set out in section 4 of the report. I'm happy to move that from the Chair. Does that receive a seconder? Councillor Croft, did you wish to speak? No. Okay. Any other member wish to speak on the item? Councillor Walsh?
Just a point of clarification. What is a freedom of entry to the borough as opposed to freedom of the borough, please?
So the freedom of entry would apply to military armed forces, where they have the right to process. And I believe that it's with bayonets fixed and drums beating and in full regalia. You all right? Okay, thank you. In which case, all those in favour of the recommendations, please show. Thank you, that's carried. Then that moves us on to any other items. I've been made aware of one item from Councillor Croft.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and apologies for the lateness of this, but I have one further proposal for road renaming. Members will recall that earlier on in the year we made a proposal from the administration to rename the section of Coton Road, and only the section of Coton Road outside of the town hall, to mark the coronation year, following on from what we did last year to rename Rowan Ringway as Jubilee Way. And I think it's fair to say that has been delayed due to what we might describe as political interference with the Royal Names Department, who were not hugely comfortable with us using the name of His Majesty the King. But they made it plain to us that they were perfectly happy for us to proceed with a renaming to mark the coronation itself, and we did say we would proceed with that. And apologies this is so late, but I'd like to move that we request a report be brought to the Cabinet to rename the section Royal Way, which, after some discussion, we think is very appropriate, given that that is where His Majesty was proclaimed King to the people of the borough, and where the soldiers from the Royal Regiments march on Freedom Day and on Remembrance Sunday. And like I say, I apologise this is late and we don't have a report ready, but we did say we'd move to do this within the coronation year to mark it, so I shall move that.
Okay, I will second that from the chair. It was something which is outstanding from before that we need to consider one way or the other. Does anyone wish to comment on that? So we're asking for a report to come to Cabinet to consider the proposal, just in a similar vein as we have done with the previous agenda item. Are you okay with that, Matt? Okay. In which case, all those in favour of the recommendations, please show. Against? One against. And there are no abstentions because everyone has voted. In which case, I will thank everyone for attendance because that is the business concluded, and wish you all a safe journey home and that you find somewhere warmer. Thank you.